Tatiana Danina. The Teaching of Djwhal Khul. New Esoteric Astrology. Chapter 10. What has changed on the firmament since the emergence of astrology? Astrology requires a radical revision. And we should start with astronomical changes. Currently, on the firmament there happened many significant changes. First, there was a shift on the firmament of the projection of the nucleus of our galaxy. Instead of Capricorn, as it was long ago, in the early days of astrology, the nucleus is now projected onto the constellation Sagittarius. The reason is as follows. Our solar system revolves around the nucleus of the galaxy clockwise. This means that the constellation of Capricorn during this movement is ahead of Sagittarius, and Sagittarius respectively is behind. And all because the stars forming Capricorn and Sagittarius are closer to the nucleus than our Sunday stars in the galaxy circulate around the nucleus, because its attraction draws them. And by analogy with the planets in the solar system, then they are closer to the Sun, the faster they move on the orbit. Due to the fact that the smaller is the distance, the greater is the force of attraction of the attracting object, and the faster is the ethereal flow. It turns out that the stars of Capricorn and Sagittarius overtaken our Sunday, and for centuries and millennia that have passed since the emergence of astrological science, constellations in the sky shifted. And now for us Sagittarius take the place of Capricorn. It is the Sagittarius is now projected onto the galaxy nucleus. Why did we decide that once ago the nucleus was projected onto Capricorn? And now for us Sagittarius take the place of Capricorn. It is the Sagittarius is now projected onto the galaxy nucleus. Why did we decide that long time ago the nucleus was projected onto Capricorn? Let's recall some information from the previous article. In astrology, to measure the distance to one of the three giant celestial bodies, determining our solar system, and the Earth and everything on it, it uses the classification of particles according to the elements. This system allows you to learn the qualitative composition of the radiation emitted by these celestial bodies, and reaching the Earth. If you remember, in the book The Main Occult Laws and Concepts, http://www.amazon.com/dp/booigt, we talked about the fact that all particles in the universe can be represented as the square of the elements: earth, water, fire and air. Earth, destroy a lot of ether, create a little. Water, destroy a little and create a little. Fire, destroy a lot and create a lot. Air, destroy a little and create a lot. Particles of all six plans are divided into small diapasons, spectra. And all the particles of any such spectrum, diapason, can also be attributed to one of these four elements: earth, water, fire and air. Particles, from the heavenly body emitting them, move by inertia, a self-sustaining nature of the movement. They are driven by the force of inertia within them. And it turns out that particles of different elements leave the heavenly body with different force of inertia, and therefore with different speed. The particles air have the biggest force. The particles water follow them. Then there is the fire, and finally the earth is. The force of a self-sustaining movement of the latter type is the smallest. The difference in the value of the force of inertia is well seen in the refraction of photons of different colors. After all, the color is the quality. The smaller is the force of inertia, the greater is the degree of deviation. And vice versa. Particles of the earth during their motion stop the first. Then there is the element of fire. Then, water. And finally, the air particles go the longest path. We hope you have already guessed that herein lies the whole point of the idea of the distance measurement using the classification of the four elements. The element indicates the distance to a celestial body, the radiation source. It tells us about the quality of those particles that are increasingly slow down, if we are at a given distance from the celestial body. For example, the zodiacal sign of the element Earth shows that when any celestial body, a planet, a satellite, the Sun or the Earth, is projected onto this sector of the sky, it is the closest to the giant celestial body, the effect of which, radiation, we are considering. Only because of this proximity the particles of the earth can reach us. In sectors of the sky of other elements they are less because of slowing down and stopping. An astrological sign of the element fire means that the distance has increased. And when a planet, the sun, a satellite or the earth itself is projected onto this sector of the sky, the less number of elementary particles, emitted by this giant celestial body, reaches it. A zodiac sign belongs to the element of fire because the particles of this particular element at a given distance are increasingly disappearing from the stream of radiation reaching our system. Particles of the earth element there are in this area and even less. A zodiacal sign of the water element means that when any celestial body in our solar system has the projection on it, this body is an even greater distance from one of three giant celestial bodies, whose influence we are studying now. And particles whose quality corresponds to the elements water, at this distance to our solar system more and more are stopped and are absorbed by the substance of the space environment. And finally, the sector of the element air on a zodiacal circle shows us the greatest distance to one of the nuclei, grandparents, whose influence we investigate. The particles of this element, air, reach us the most. The particles of others are in a lesser extent. Water, fire, earth, descending. However, we should not think that if any sector of the zodiacal circle denotes a particular element, such as earth, the particles only this quality will reach us from this part of the sky. No, it is not so. An element indicates that amount of the particles precisely this quality becomes in the radiation reaching up less and less. Blurred the boundaries between sectors are not sharp. One area of the sky gradually turns into another. This also applies to the quality of radiation reaching us. When we enter into a nearby sign, the quality does not change instantly. A zodiac sign element fire indicates that in this area of the sky a celestial body, planet, sun, moon, is located at a greater distance from a giant celestial body, compared with the previous sector of the element earth. And particles fire are gradually begin to slow down, but there are very much of them still. On other remaining sectors, elements of water and air, it becomes less of particles fire. On a sector of sky of the element water particles of this element begin to slow down and disappear. And on a sector of the element air it happens to the particles of the element air. So now Sagittarius replaced Capricorn. Projection onto Sagittarius indicates the shortest distance to the nucleus of our galaxy. The second change in the sky is the offset of all constellations in the month ahead. So, in this case, any change in position in space has not occurred. This shift of the constellations, we can say, is man-made. The reason is the gradual heating of the Earth and the increasing of the distance between the planet and the Sun. The year period of turnover of the planet around the Sun is constantly and steadily increasing. Ever since astrology arisen centuries and millennia have passed. And all this time the period of turnover is slowly increasing. And we, people still measure the same, 365 days a year, 366 in leap years. So it has happened that the astronomical year is growing, and a year as a certain number of days in the year remains unchanged. Hence there is a displacement of the constellations in relation to the months. We believe we need to take into account this permanent elongation of the year and make the necessary corrections. Otherwise, over time the constellations will shift even more in relation to the months and will not stop on this. By the way, the precession of the equinoxes is also caused by the increasing heating of the Earth. The vernal equinox, this is the moment when two hemispheres of the planet, north and south, are warmed equally, though, as it takes place at the time of the autumn equinox. At the time of the winter solstice the northern hemisphere turns away from the sun maximally. From the time of the winter solstice to the vernal equinox the northern hemisphere begins to turn toward the sun, and the southern, on the contrary, begins to turn away from because of the heating of its entrails. Because the general warming of the Earth increasing every year the southern hemisphere warms up a little faster than the year before, and begins to turn away from the sun earlier. From here there is the fact that the vernal equinox each year comes a little earlier. That is, this is the precession of the equinoxes. A resume. Because of this double change, of displacement of the constellations relatively to the calendar, as well as due to the movement of the projection of the nucleus of galaxy from Capricorn on Sagittarius, it has become quite difficult to study the zodiacal influences. First, the old stereotypes act and the names of astrological signs are pronounced without regard of displacement of the constellations. For example, I was born when the sun was projected on Sagittarius. This is in reality. But according to the old traditions my sign is still called Capricorn. If I start talking that I'm Sagittarius, then others will imagine in the head corresponding description of the sign of Sagittarius, the one used so far, superenergetic, spry. That is that sign that corresponded to match the end of November and 2 10-day periods of December. So I continue to be cited as Capricorn, while stipulating that Capricorns now are Sagittarians, although their characteristics are still the same, Capricornian. And this is in the case of each sign. Aquarius is Capricorn now, but with Aquarian character, that is its description as the old Aquarian type. Pisces is Aquarius, but in fact Pisces. Aries are Pisces, but they have remained on quality Aries. Taurus is Aries and the character is of the Taurus. Twins are Taurus, but only under the name of the constellation on which the sun is projected. Cancers are twins, but they remain the same familiar to us Cancers. Lions must now be referred to Cancers. However, their nature is of lions. Virgin is lions for the title. Libra, Virgo. Scorpions, scales. Sagittarius, scorpion. The names have changed, but the true nature remains the one that corresponds to the old system of signs. Secondly, the projection of the nucleus of the galaxy is also changed. So, the signs changed, on which this celestial body exerts a main and additional influence. Previously, the main influence was obtained by the solar signs, Cancer, Gemini, Taurus and Aries. If we consider the position of the Earth on the orbit, it is the opposite signs, Capricorn, Sagittarius, Scorpio and Libra. Leo gets an additional influence, opposite sign, Aquarius. And now its solar signs, Gemini, Taurus, Aries and Pisces. Opposite signs are Sagittarius, Scorpio, Libra and Virgo. An additional influence gets Capricorn, opposite sign, Cancer. Third, we always have to take into account that the position of the sun in the sky, thin is one, and the position of the earth, is another. And we must keep in mind the need